Welcome to a very special episode of the Between Two Brands podcast, episode number 9, if you're keeping score at home. My name is Bill Petrie, and I am your host. And we'll get to why this is such a special episode here in a minute. But before I do, I want to do two things. Number one, thank each and every one of you for coming along on the ride so far. The response has been nothing short of phenomenal, and I'm honored by that. And so, again, thank you. And the second thing I want to do before we get rolling is, as we like to do here, let's pay the rent. Hey, distributors, it's 2025, and your clients aren't satisfied any longer with you merely acting as a middleman, slapping their logo on generic, predictable, and frankly, uninspiring products. What they're demanding is something more. Merchandise that feels thoughtfully curated for their unique brand. The days of relying on standard off-the-shelf items that are available to anyone are over. To stand out, your clients need something exceptional, products that truly reflect their identity and set them apart from the crowd. And this is exactly where our friends at 7 Sourcing and Russ Mogel come in. With over 30 years of direct custom merchandise sourcing, they are the clear leaders in the space. Now, here's just a few reasons you'd want to partner with 7 Sourcing when it comes to custom merch. They have established relationships with fully vetted and trusted factories. They ensure all merchandise passes a rigorous quality control check by an accredited third-party partner. They comply with but frequently exceed industry standards, manufacturing requirements, and product safety regulations, and they manage every part of logistics and communicate through every step of the process. In other words, with their expertise, they know how to deliver bespoke merchandise that will position you as a distributor as the hero in the eyes of your client, and while also steering clear of the common pitfalls that can come with managing it on your own. Now, to be clear, of course, it takes a little bit more time, typically between 75 and 90 days, to design, develop, and deliver truly unique and original merchandise. But isn't that extra planning worth it to craft exceptional products that foster lasting loyalty? We don't just believe it. We're certain of it. Hey, when you're ready to elevate yourself from just a promotional products distributor to a true partner who delivers exactly what your clients crave, unique, custom branded merchandise designed specifically for them, reach out to Russ and his team at sales@7sourcing.com. And thank you, 7 Sourcing, for sponsoring this podcast. So I mentioned at the top of the podcast, this is kind of a special edition of the Between Two Brands podcast because it's the annual PowerHouse Women of Promo podcast. I've had people ask throughout the years not only why we do this list, but why it's important to me. And so I'm going to ask Kirby when he comes on, because Kirby is the guest today. No big mystery there. But I thought it'd be interesting if we both came at it individually without us collaborating on an answer. Because frankly, I'm curious about his answer. Maybe he's curious enough about mine to listen to what I'm about to say. Who could possibly say? So to me, it's important to me because I've had so many strong, independent, creative women help me throughout my career. Whether it's been my mother-in-law, who has always been nothing but supportive of me and my efforts, or in a professional manner. The first real boss I worked for that I truly respected was when I worked at a company called Daisy Tech based in Dallas, and her name was Suzanne Garrett. And she saw something in me and elevated me into a position I didn't feel I was ready for, but she knew I was ready for it. And she nurtured me. And I always remembered that. And it took a female perspective to see that in me, whereas I had several male bosses where it just didn't happen. And I don't love that. Here's a funny thing. I don't love that we have to have this podcast. I feel that it's important, though, that we do, if that makes sense. It's important because women do need to be recognized. Women do need to be celebrated, and their accomplishments need to be shared with everybody. And so on one side, I struggle with this podcast because I hate that we need it. But on the other hand, I'm really proud that something that Kirby and I felt pretty important about 6 or 7 years ago when we started it has actually turned into something that people look forward to. So this podcast is kind of an honor to do. So really excited about it, excited when it drops, excited to see the responses from people. So, this podcast is really about celebrating the achievements. I hope it inspires others as they have inspired me, and really acknowledge the role women have played in elevating our industry. So, the way I look at this podcast is really quite simple. This list is not just about a celebration. It's about recognition. It's a list to acknowledge the incredible contributions women have made in the promotional products industry and leadership and in everyday life, while also recognizing the challenges that still need to be tackled. Let's be clear, progress has been made, but there's always more work to do. So I'm hopeful today we can amplify voices, we can support equality, and we can appreciate the women who make the world and our industry better every single day. So we're about to start with the actual list here in a second. Before, I just want to do one more quick rent payment, and that's with our friends over at Certified Marketing Consultants. Hey, do you know what season it is? That's right, it's business valuation season. Now, perhaps you don't know what your company is worth. Maybe it's been more than a few years since your last valuation, and you need a new benchmark to see if your company is increasing in value. Heck, you might want to see if it's time to sell your business. Regardless of the reason, Jamie Watson and the experts at Certified Marketing Consultants have extensive experience in the world of branded merchandise and the knowledge, the financial knowledge necessary to provide a fact-based valuation of your business. Simply email them at info@certifiedmarketing.com. You're not going to be sorry you did. All right, let's bring in Kirby and let's get to celebrating some fantastic women in the promotional products industry. Well, today's guest needs absolutely no introduction, but I feel like wasting a little bit of your time, his time, and my time doing it anyway. He is the founder and CEO of Hasseman Marketing, a boutique marketing agency based in Eastern Ohio. Known for his entrepreneurial spirit and dedication to consistency, he brings a level of realness in everything that he does. He's the author of several books, including Fan of Happy, The Give First Economy, and his most recent tome, Hit the Target. Outside of work, he invests heavily into his community of Coshocton, Ohio, with his lovely wife, Amy. Here to deliver a little bit of marketing joy is the one and only Kirby Hasseman. Kirby, I feel like we may have done this before.
Oh man, that intro was very kind. I appreciate that. And so much better than what I sent you. Actually,
Yeah,
I don't know if it was better. It was much kinder than what I sent you. So thanks, buddy.
Kirby sent me a bio that was not ready for prime time. Let's just leave it at that. So I burned some calories and rewrote it. All right, so
Thank you.
we
Thank you.
this is the dramatic return of Kirby Hasseman, which is fantastic. He will be a regular guest on this show, but today is a pretty special episode of the Between Two
Yeah.
Brands podcast, episode number 9. It is the annual PowerHouse Women of Promo podcast, and so we have certain categories. We're going to go over that, but as I mentioned in the preamble to this section of the podcast, I'm going to ask Kirby the same question I asked myself, which is, Kirby, why is this list so important to you?
I think there's a couple reasons. So one of the things that I love is calling out the good in the world, right? Like I think that when we just don't do enough of it, I think studies will tell you 89% of what we see in the world is negative. And so if nearly 9 out of 10 things are negative, taking the opportunity to point out people who are doing good work is always good, and it makes me feel good. The second thing that was really big to me is I find because this, obviously for years our shtick was we didn't do much prep for the podcast, but this was the one that we did do a lot of prep. It makes me look at our industry differently. And so it makes me look at it more thoughtfully than just the doom scrolling or the, kind of, oh, lift my eyebrow when somebody says this or whatever. I'm
Yeah.
looking at the industry much more intentionally this way. And it fills my spirit, fills me with hope because of a lot of people doing good work.
Awesome. No, I love it. I love it. And we were talking just before we started recording. It would just feel weird to do this list without Kirby, so it's important that we do this together. So here's what we will do. We have a list of categories we're going to go through. We're going to each name two women each. We'll probably alternate back and forth. So
Love it.
we've picked two for each category. It's not a winner and a runner-up. It's just two people we really believe are perfectly suited for the category which we're talking about. So Kirby, why don't you kick us off with the
Okay.
your first distributor woman to watch.
I will. I'll have to put the spectacles on.
Yep.
I got my printed list here. The first one that I wanted to call out was Stephanie Hinkle. So Stephanie
Okay.
Hinkle, I follow her on all the social media platforms, but LinkedIn is where I tend to see most of her stuff. What I like about Stephanie is she's an includer. One of the things that I admire about other people in our industry that they're connectors, and I think Stephanie's kind of like that. And I've seen her do that via social media, via like in-person events, stuff like that, and then obviously kind of leading in that way in her business. So Stephanie Hinkle.
Love it. Love it. Great choice. My first distributor woman to watch is Liza Sachs from Kaiser and Blair. She has been there a few years and really injected an energy into Kaiser and Blair that I don't know was there before. And I think people are starting to look at Kaiser and Blair as a much more modern, much more progressive, much more innovative company as she leads the way along with the co-CEOs, Brad Kaiser and Mitch Kaiser, really pushing some things forward. Liza Sachs from Kaiser and Blair.
Love it. That's a great one. I can zero comment or argument with that for sure. My next one is one that I put this name on this list each year because she just continually I see the good work she does is Kara Keister. So Kara runs Social Good Promotions, which is I just love the mission of their organization where the whole idea is to do good, but she's also serving. In the industry in a lot of ways, and I find that she's a wonderful source for me. She always knows what's going on in a good way, and so like I remember Jade ended up going down to the event that you and she spoke at together. Kara was one of the people who invited her. Was like she
Mhm.
needs to be at this thing, and so I appreciate
Yeah.
all that Kara does.
Love that. My second distributor woman to watch is Carrie Cowden, now of
Mm,
Whitestone Branding, formerly of
right.
Connect the Dots Promotions, and did some work at Campus Stop as well. Much like Kara, Carrie Cowden she gives back to the industry. She volunteers quite a bit. She
Yeah.
is on the board of PPAI. But if you know her, she injects such energy into any room she walks into. And I think her going to Whitestone is such a huge coup for that organization. So Carrie Cowden, Whitestone Branding is my final distributor woman to watch. All right,
Man, that's a
Kirby.
good one.
We're
Totally
we're
good.
off to a
That
rollicking
was one of
start.
those. Yeah, that was one of those moments. And you know how you see them in the social media.
Yeah.
When I saw Carrie was going to Whitestone, I was like, "Ooh, that's a big
Yeah.
move."
Yeah. All right. Let's go right along with supplier woman to watch. I'll start this off. My first supplier woman to watch is Amanda Maynard at Hirsch. She
Mm,
has
yeah.
been at Hirsch, I'd say about 18 months now, maybe 2 years, and really has ascended very rapidly and almost being the face of the organization along with Brittany Fraze.
Yeah.
And she just got a promotion. And whenever I see her out, she works maybe harder than anybody else at an event. And she's always, I don't care how early she got up, what flight she's been on, she's always bringing absolute intensity and energy to the proceedings. Amanda Maynard from Hirsch.
That's a good one. She's got that hashtag too. It's like flats are for flights or flight. It's something like that where
That is
travel
correct.
days. Yeah.
That is
So
correct.
I love her. That's a good one.
Yep.
I'm going to go Ashley Coletti
Okay.
on this one. Ashley with Spectre and Co.
Mhm.
She's just a breath of fresh air every time she's in a room. Love what she's doing over social media and sort of taking a leadership role at Spectre and Co. She's awesome.
Yeah, she's quite effervescent, that Ashley Coletti. My second
Yeah.
supplier woman to watch is one Lindsay Bonds from ID
Mm,
Line. I got an opportunity
yeah.
to know her at LDC Leadership Development Conference in Dallas. She was actually on the Between Two Brands podcast, I think episode number
Mhm.
3 or 4.
I watched it.
Super young, super energetic, extremely intelligent. Her brain works faster than just about anybody I know. She is such someone who I think is going to reach amazing heights in our industry. So Lindsay Bonds from ID Line.
Love that one. You may hear that name again.
Okay.
A little teaser. My next
Little
one
teaser.
Yeah, Jenna Quaranta, JQ. She's one of those people who I mentioned a lot. I love what she does on the sales training side. I think it's really interesting, and I think it's a really interesting
Mm,
go-to-market strategy where she's training people. And I think there's a give back component that you and I both respect.
mhm.
And I mean, it's hard not to if you go through that sales training module, have appreciation and then want to sell HPG, which is where she works. So I think that's really cool.
Right.
So JQ.
Awesome. Great choice there. Awesome, man. We're flying through this. I love it. We're
We're
just
killing it.
rap.
It's
This is
like we've
almost like
done it
rapid
before.
fire. Yes, almost like we've done
Yeah.
it before. All right. Why don't you start us off with the service provider woman to watch, Kirby?
Okay. My first one on the service provider
Okay.
is Sarah Rempel from Common Skew. I think
Okay.
Sarah has really taken a role on the social media side where you see her with the tiny microphone talking
Mhm.
about things at events, talking about things that are upcoming, doing some creative stuff that promote the Common Skew brand. And Common Skew has a bunch of big brands,
Sure.
big personal brands that go in there. And so I love that she's starting to stand out there too.
Love that. So, great choice. Great choice. My first choice is Hallie Moore over at Promo
Mm,
Corner.
yep.
If anybody who doesn't know, I used to work at Promo Corner. I was there for 3.5 years. Left there 4.5 years ago to start Brandivate. That's not what this is about. What Hallie has done has really kind of almost become the face of that organization,
Mhm.
which I find really inspiring. It's not Lori, her mother. It's not Joel, her dad. It's not really anyone else at the company. It's really Hallie Moore, who really represents Promo Corner. And so to me, she's really grown into her role there. And I've watched it from a distance expand and just very impressed with her. So Hallie Moore over at Promo Corner.
A fine choice. That no arguments there for sure. I love what she's doing as well. My next one is JGR, Jessica Gibbons Roush. Obviously,
Okay.
she is one of the people that is working on the online education portion. I know
Hmm.
she works with Jill um, and creating education for events and stuff like that. I think JGR is very thoughtful about what she's going to do. I think she's got an interesting background to do exactly that. And so she's one of those people that I also, every time I get to hop on a call with her, I always leave in a better mood than when I
Yeah.
hopped on. And so I love JGR.
She's great in continuing us sucking up to PPAI. Heather Mangold from PPAI, who was just recently recognized for crushing her sales goals.
Yeah.
She has really found a great home after being at Raining Rose, found a really great home at PPAI and truly owns what she does. Uh, she is such a consummate cheerleader for the association,
Mm.
as is JGR or Lindsay Davis. I mean, there's a lot of
Yep.
people there, but this
They got a good
Heather
team.
really has come into her own, and I think she's someone to watch in the service provider section. All right, look at us. All right, here we
Love that
go.
one. Yeah.
Women on the rise. So this is
Mhm.
kind of one of those categories. I don't even know what it means. It just sounds like someone on the rise. So let's
Yep.
rise some people up. My first one, if I may go first, Kyla Powell Emery from Blue Phoenix Branding. She
Okay.
is the daughter of Travis Powell and Angela Powell, who own a really nice sized pro forma franchise for pro
Mhm.
forma distributorship in Idaho. Her creativity, I've worked with her on several projects. I've met her through her dad a few times. She is such a bright light and she's insanely curious, which I love. And she is a non-stereotypical Gen Z in that she finds value in going slow and learning from others while making sure
Mm.
she adds her particular flair to the proceedings. So
Yeah.
Kyla
Love that.
Powell Emery.
That's a good one. I can't. I don't know Kyla. That's you did a great job describing her because I want to get to know her. So that's awesome. Love
She's
that.
awesome.
Yeah. Okay. My next one is Nina Bui. I
Yeah.
probably am pronouncing that incorrectly. I stink at that. But Nina's awesome. I know she is at HPG, and I love the content she's creating right now. And I feel like she's really building a personal brand around some of that.
Mhm.
She's one of those people that I see more and more showing up in my feed, at least for me specifically on LinkedIn. But there's seeing her across platforms, and she's one of those people who I think is on the rise.
Yep. No, I absolutely love that. My final woman on the rise is Jill Strinkorb. I've known her for years. She was at Bit Graphic, became Kuzi Group for 30 years. and I mean, which that's a career, and just
Yeah.
recently left to be have a vice get a vice take a vice president role at California Tattoos, which I find a bold move, in a good way. To it's going to be challenging, and I just think the world of her, and I think that type of a move, even after you've had 30 years of experience, you can still be someone on the rise. And I think
Yes.
taking on a new challenge like that, we don't celebrate that enough. We tend to
Yeah. I
celebrate
love that.
the consistency, which is always good, but there's something to be said for taking that bold step, especially after you've had 30 years of experience at one company. So,
Yeah, I
Jill
like that.
Strinkob, I know I pronounce that wrong. I do it all the time. That's a breaker name for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. No, that's great. I like that. And I like the philosophy behind it, Bill. I like that. That was cool.
Yeah.
For me, the next one is one you've heard before, Lindsay Bonds. Lindsay
Yeah.
Bonds is one of those people I know. She was a rising star. I really
Yeah.
enjoyed the episode that she was on with, with you on Between Two Brands.
Mhm.
So I got to know her a little bit more there, but I got to know her through Jade. And so she's one of those people that every time I have an interaction with her, I think she's fun. She's, as you said, incredibly smart. 100%. I just want to echo all the stuff you said. So yeah, Lindsay Bonds.
Consider it echoed. All right. Next category, the Janelle Nevins Memorial Woman Trailblazer. Again, I say this every year. Janelle Nevins was one of my real inspirations in the industry when I was very early in my career. After I'd left Halo, I went to Summit Marketing, and Janelle was a fixture there. And she taught me so many things. And her main client was Coca-Cola, and she sold Coca-Cola started in the mid 70s at a time when that was very much the old boys club. And she was absolutely a
Yeah.
trailblazer in our industry to break through that barrier. So I always like to think about Janelle when I'm coming up with the names here. And my first one, and you know what? Actually, why don't you go first?
Okay.
How about that? There's a
Uh,
teaser.
yeah, that's right. So mine on here was Susan Lewandowski. I actually think
Yep.
you might have mentioned her last year for this
I
very thing.
did
But
in the same
again,
category, but that's perfect.
yeah,
Yeah, Susan's
yeah.
perfect.
Well,
Yeah.
again, for me, it's just one of those where I think she is in such a leadership role, in such a. I am so fascinated by the rebrand of Bell Promo in our industry
Yeah.
for many folks, including myself. And Susan is the like sort of the face of that, at least in my mind.
Yeah.
And so she truly has been a trailblazer about kind of turning a ship around that was going a different direction and make like our. You and I have talked about this in the past. My impression and many people's impression with Bell Promo is completely different
Yeah.
based on Susan.
Yeah, I can't. That is, she's one of my favorite people in the industry. She is one of the smartest people I know in the industry, and I think what you said, I couldn't say it any better myself. My first one is one Samantha Cates from Spectre,
Mm,
and I will tell
yeah.
you why. You mentioned Ashley Coletti, and I know they work very closely at Spectre. Sam, I've known for years as a view. She came from commonsku, and then has been at Spectre for quite some time, and she's really charted some of their growth. And what I love about Sam, not all growth stories is this nice little trajectory upward. There's always hiccups, there's always speed bumps, there's times you need to make a left turn. And I think, it's pretty well known that they opened up a facility, a warehouse in Las Vegas. It didn't work
Right.
out. It did not work out for whatever reason. It doesn't matter. But what I love about and what I call Sam a trailblazer, instead of turtling up, instead of trying to sweep it under the rug, she owned it. It communicated openly on the promotional products Facebook page to people who are questioning it, and has
Yeah.
turned and pivoted the organization back to where it needs to go, so that trajectory upwards continues. And in the things they rolled out in Vegas, pretty impressive. So
Yeah.
Samantha Cates, who I've always been a fan of, but
Same.
I wanted to me, she is a trailblazer. In fact, she's really leading that organization and doing one hell of a job.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that, I think sometimes, and I think I've been guilty of this sometimes, is like you make a decision and you're going to make it work come hell or high water, even if all
Yep.
of the data points are telling you that it's not. It takes a lot of courage and, quite
Hmm.
frankly, wisdom to be like, nope, that's not
Yeah.
working. We're going to change. So I think
Yeah.
that's cool. That's really good.
Awesome.
Um, my next one is Jolie Goodson. And really, not only from her work in the distributor side, but the podcast itself. I mean, the reality of
Hmm.
it is, if you look at the numbers, there are fewer women in the podcast space. And
Yeah.
Jolie's got a powerful podcast, and it's very well
Yes.
listened to, and it's very well respected in the marketing space in Canada and whatever. And so I view her very much as a trailblazer in the content side. And so that
Yeah.
would be mine, Jolie Goodson.
I love that. And you know what? She also works really hard at it. I
Yeah.
mean, you and
Yeah.
I do a weekly podcast. I'd say the combined effort you and I put in is not a lot compared to what she puts in. She really works damn hard. And that's not to minimize the work you and I do for our respective
Sure.
podcasts, but she really, really puts herself into it. My
She
last
does.
one is My last one is someone who is retired. That would be the one and only Dawn Olds. To me, she is a
Hmm.
trailblazer because she stepped in to lead PPAI at a time that was a little bit uncertain. And the fact that she is the first woman president and CEO of that organization after 120 years, and that's embarrassing, but that's what it is. The fact that she's the first woman who's led that organization, she deserves that nod, in my opinion. So Dawn
Yeah.
Olds, former interim president and CEO of PPAI.
Yeah, that's a really good
Awesome.
one. That's a really good one. Love it.
All right. This is always a fun one. The T. Hamilton Memorial Creative Woman Award. Both of us knew T. Hamilton. If you didn't know T. Hamilton, man, did you miss out. Was she was absolutely one of the most lovely creative people. She created SkewBot. She did a lot of work with people in the industry. I know you
Yeah.
had an opportunity to share the stage with her as I did, and just a true lovely, lovely person. Unfortunately, passed away from cancer about 4.5, 5 years ago. And this is our way of honoring her in that creative spirit because there are so many wonderfully creative women in our industry. And my first one is Hillary Morris from Taco
Mm.
Bout Pins. So Hillary, if
Yeah.
you don't know her, runs a pin company called Taco Bout Pins. And the creativity, not just in how she promotes the business, and that's certainly creative. You can look at all their social channels and it's super creative. The work that they do in the individual pins they create for their clients to make sure it interjects personality, it speaks to the brand, and that it's cohesive and tells a story in a pin. Man, she is super creative, and I love working with her on projects. So yes, Hillary Morris from Taco Bout Pins.
Yeah, that's a really good one. And so full energy and positivity. And
Hmm.
she's just so, yeah, she's just a
Yeah,
delight. I'm such a
yeah.
fan. So my first one is Mandy Rudd. So
Hmm.
Mandy, obviously a distributor. She had her own distributor. Now she's with Genumark. And I think
Hmm.
she does really some creative social media. But honestly, I'm getting sort of a shout out to her other project, which is Kickaboo,
Hmm.
an educational children's
Absolutely.
program where she was just at South by Southwest this weekend, if you don't know,
Yeah.
or this last week, whatever it was. And I think it is so neat to take on a project of that size and scope while you're also running a business, while you're out also trying to do good. And I will say it's really cool. Like my grandsons really enjoy watching the clips of Kickaboo too. So and I think Mandy's awesome. So
Yeah, well,
there's that.
100%. That's a great one. And doing something like that, that's such a big, big creative thing. Absolutely. And she might end up being on the Between Two Brands podcast in a few weeks. Who could
I,
possibly say? I wish we knew. I wish we knew.
I
My
feel like you
next
could
one,
possibly say.
I could. The next one for the T. Hamilton Memorial Creative Woman Award is Natalie O'Leary from Bamco. She is absolutely killing it on digital media, especially on we tend to connotate social media with Facebook and Instagram. She
Mhm.
certainly does on Instagram, but she does a ton on LinkedIn. And I think she is just phenomenal in what she does there. She gets that distributors can't just share product. She tells a story with her posts. And I find that really, really refreshing. And she's leading the way there.
Yeah, I love it. My next one is Taylor Borst. Taylor is one of those people, and if I'm just being honest, as I looked at my list, I'm like, I have to find a place for Taylor on this list. And I could put her in multiple places, I'm sure.
Hmm.
But when I think of the social media she does, and now she's managing events, and I think,
Yeah.
you know, creativity just isn't about drawing, as we've talked about in the past. It's about
Yeah.
creative solutions and creative
Yeah.
campaigns. And I think Taylor's one of those people. I mean, I think as we're recording this, ASB has their event going on, and I'm following via social, and I'm like, the design, everything about it just looks
Yeah.
awesome. And I know she
Yeah,
oversees a lot of that.
if it wasn't for T. Hamilton, we could almost name this after
Right.
her. So
Yep.
awesome. All right,
Love
we
it.
have two more to go, two more categories to go. The next one is the Charity Gibson Social Media Woman of Distinction. It's named for Charity Gibson. Thankfully, she's still with us, so it's not a memorial,
Yes.
but she is the original trailblazer
Yeah.
for social media. Therefore, she's no longer eligible for this category, but
Because we,
it's
we
important to
we made it her every year.
yeah, it's important we recognize, the work she did and has done. She continues to do, but she was really the first person that really embraced social media from a female perspective, and still does a great job. All right, I think it's your turn to go first. So, who is your first social media woman of distinction, Kirby?
All right, I'm going to go with Savannah Dimitri. I think I'm pronouncing that right. She goes as
Okay.
Merch Girly. So I
Okay.
love what she does on social media. I think she has a lot of fun. She sort of owns
Yeah.
her own brand with the Merch Girly thing. She actually did a thing here recently where she was talking about the book Let Them by Mel Robbins. I don't
Hmm.
know if you saw this, where so Mel liked the post. She ended up creating a separate video that was specifically for Mel Robbins talking about how they should create merch together. I was just like,
That's awesome.
and actually Jade Kreider, my daughter, is the one who pointed it out to me. I went and looked at it. I was like, it was so neat. And I'm like, this is how social media should be done. So I think
Yeah.
Merch Girly.
I love it. Love it. Nanette Gray from Lemonade Creative Marketing. She is so fun to follow on social media. She keeps it
Mhm.
very real. And,
Yeah.
she lets her personality shine through, which I always love. And I don't know her as well as I'd like to. She did a great job when she was one of the judges on the pitch.
Mhm.
But when I see her on social media, it always makes me either smile or think. And I love that when it comes to following people on social media. So Nanette Gray from Lemonade Creative Marketing.
Yeah, zero argument with that. I think that's awesome. All right, I'm gonna go. This is gonna be a little bit different, but I'm gonna go with Johanna Gottlieb, and not just because of the posts she does, but one of the things I admire with Joe is her engagement. I actually think that's an underrated skill, especially when
Hmm.
you're talking about LinkedIn and the way that the algorithm works right now. I find that I see her all the time, not necessarily because of the posts she put, but because of the thoughtful
Yeah.
comments she puts into um, even things that disagree with her. I love that strategy, and it's inspiring me to do the same. And so I'm going to go Joanna Gottlieb.
Yeah, there's a lot to admire about Joe, and so that's a great one. My final one is Natasha Rawls from the MRL
Mm,
group. I mentioned her in my talk at Expo, not knowing she was in the audience.
yeah, that was fun.
She, in my view, defines unboxing merchandise and how
Yep.
it's done right. She continually does videos. They're shared on Instagram Reels and TikTok and Facebook stories, and it's about unboxing. And what she does is one of the hardest things for a distributor to do. Keep that joy, that wonder, that delight and surprise when it comes to branded merchandise. She will open a box and it might be something that we all would consider mundane. We've seen it before. And she gives off a vibe of this is the coolest thing I have ever seen. I cannot wait to use this. Mr. and Mrs. Customer, this is something that would work perfectly for your type of event.
Yeah.
I think she absolutely is, to me, the absolute gold standard when it comes to doing those type of unboxing videos.
Yeah, yeah. And you used the word effervescent earlier, and that's
Yep.
like when you see her doing it, that's the word
Yeah,
her energy is effervescent. I agree.
absolutely. All right, Kirby. It's the final category, the woman
Yep.
we would hire to run our company. And as we say every year, their first order of business would be to downsize the company by one, and that would be by Kirby and me. We would both be fired.
Yeah.
We understand that.
Yeah.
That's fine. So,
Yeah.
I think you need to go ahead. Do I need who starts? I forget. Doesn't matter.
I don't
Okay.
remember. I will say that this is the hardest one for me. Not
It
because it's
is.
hard to find them, it's hard to narrow them down. I have a list of like seven women in
And
front of me right now.
it's hard to not repeat. If
Yeah.
you've been paying attention before we
Yep.
get to this final thing, if you've been paying attention, I work really hard to not repeat. That's just the way I approach it. Kirby approaches it a little differently. He will repeat, and I think that's okay. Sometimes I think Kirby's approach might be better. I think, so I don't know if it's better or worse, but I can tell you everybody on Kirby's list is pretty awesome, not gonna lie.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
all right. So,
So do you want me
Kirby,
to go
let's start
first or
with
you want to
you.
go first?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
The woman you'd hire to run your company, knowing that the first order of business would be to shit can you.
Yep, absolutely. You know what? I'm going to be honest on this one, okay? And the
I would
honest
hope you were
answer is
honest
Jade.
on all of them.
Yeah, the honest answer is Jade Kreider.
Okay. Okay.
So my daughter is, I think, working to grow around our business and grow in different ways. And I think down the road, that's the person I envision running
Yeah,
my company. And so
I
I
love
think
it.
to be candid, that's what I'm hoping is going to happen.
Well, I think that's fantastic. And, I actually had Jade as potentials for a couple of the categories here. Um, and I probably got in my own head. I'm like, I have a feeling Kirby might mention her in this category or this category. And I don't want to be too redundant, if I can avoid that.
Yeah.
And so when you hadn't mentioned, I'm like, shit, I think I might have missed my opportunity. So I'm glad you brought Jade up. I'm glad. I'm glad. All right. Someone I'd bring in to run my company, Jamie Watson from Certified Marketing Consultants.
That's a good one.
And I guarantee you the first thing she would do would be fire me, but then
Yeah,
she'd
she's
hire
talked to
me
me about
back.
it.
Yeah, and then but she'd hire me back for the marketing part of it. So she'd allow me to do that part. But if you've had a chance to speak with Jamie, she is so supremely intelligent and thoughtful in everything that she does, and she really gets the big picture. She really understands what companies need to do, where they need to go to grow. So to me, I would absolutely look at Jamie Watson, Certified Marketing Consultants.
Yes. So you mentioned that I often repeat. And so I really was trying not to because
Don't
we used
don't
to joke about this.
Yeah,
Go
don't
ahead.
make me name this the Catherine Graham who's going to
So,
run your company.
yeah. And so Catherine Graham is always on my list. So
Always.
but I'm not going to say Catherine this time. So I'm going to go with the
Okay.
name you mentioned earlier, and that's
Yeah.
Samantha Cates.
Yeah. Great.
Samantha, I think through, you talk about, I love sort of, I just enjoy every chance I get to talk to her. I feel like she's one of those people who is really thoughtful, but also lifts you up. And I think I want that in a leader. But also, you mentioned it, like how she has traversed the challenges of the Las Vegas
Yeah. Great
facility.
choice.
I admire that. I admire how
Yeah.
she's managed that. So that's the name that was on my list.
I love that. I actually had her as a possibility, so I love that.
Mm,
Mine will be a repeat from a year
mm.
past, and it's going to be Brittany Fraze from Hirsch.
I would have bet.
I have a couple other ones, but when I come right down to it, I would be taking her off the list just for another name that wouldn't I don't believe in. So I'm going to stick with Brittany. If you know Brittany, you know that her brain moves about 746 light years faster than anybody else's. She processes information so quickly and very quickly, and it very quickly makes a decision. So I love that. I find that ability to be decisive so such a great trait in a
Powerful.
leader. So be Brittany Fraze.
It's funny. That's she was on my list too. I wasn't.
Yeah.
So I was kind of tickled that you brought her up, kind of the same way you mentioned Jade. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
somebody's gotta. So that's great. That's awesome.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, there you go, kids. That is the 2025 PowerHouse Women of Promo list. Obviously, we'd love to know what you think. Here's the thing. We both know we miss some great people.
For sure.
And so if we've missed someone, if let us know. We like to know
Yeah.
that stuff. This is something that we both put some thought into. We both really care about, and we're proud. I will speak for Kirby here. I think we're proud of what it's become.
Mhm.
It started off as
Yeah.
this kind of thing. Well, let's recognize women in the industry, and now it's become something. So, any closing remarks, Kirby, before I do a quick little pay the rent sponsor read and send everybody on their merry way?
I would just say thank you. Like I appreciate you letting me continue to be a part of this. And and if I'm just being honest, I miss talking to you, buddy. So
I
thanks
miss
for
talking to
having me.
you.
Yeah.
You know what? We need, and we didn't even coordinate our clothing today, even though we're in the
Yeah.
same stupid colored blue shirt. But hey, I tell you what. Tell you what, distributors, did you know it's 2025? That's right, your clients are no longer satisfied with you merely acting as a middleman, just slapping their logo on generic products. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. They want custom. They want something that's bespoke. They want something that's really going to be integrated with their brand. And that's where our good friends over at Seven Sourcing come in. They have established relationships with vetted and trusted factories. We're talking about custom overseas sourcing here, folks. They ensure that the merchandise passes rigorous quality control check by an accredited third party partner. They comply with and frequently exceed industry standards, manufacturing requirements, and product safety regulations, and manage every part of the logistics and communicate through every step of the process. So when you're ready to elevate yourself from just a promotional products distributor to a true partner who delivers exactly what your clients want, that unique custom branded merchandise designed specifically for them, reach out to Russ Mogul and his team, or Mogul and his team, at sales@sevensourcing.com. Kirby, always a pleasure. Thank you for doing this with me. And congratulations to all the ladies.